It's probably a finesse, but I guess the bigger question is it actually a crime? We're going to talk about it. The what's going on with these artists? Are they finessing the PPP system? And is it a crime? Will prosecutors likely prosecute them criminally for it? As always, I'm Marcus, and if you're new to the channel, I invite you to hit the subscribe button, hit the link button below, and definitely a round of applause to you if you want to join the family and hit that join button and become official co-counsel to the channel, where you get early access to content. Again, as always, I'm a licensed attorney, but not your attorney. Let's go and dive in, see what Lil Wayne, Chris Brown, and others have been doing with your tax dollars. Let's get it.
Big names in entertainment like Lil Wayne, DJ Marshmello, and Chris Brown facing scrutiny for spending millions in COVID relief money on themselves, according to an in-depth report by Business Insider, which reviewed accounting documents and filings with the Small Business Administration, which administered the loans. NBC News has not seen the documents, but the reporting says the celebs were awarded money from the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant.
It was, talked about as something that would help, the local institution concert venue, the middle class stagehand, the small time performing artist who's, just getting their start.
But in the case of A-list star Lil Wayne, Business Insider reviewed documents showing the rapper received $8.9 million in relief funds.
All right, now I'm not even going to dive too far into it, but Lil Wayne net worth is kind of high. So 8.9 million in your tax dollars. Let's see what they spent it on.
Spending $1.3 million on private jets, another $460,000 going to clothes, including Balenciaga and Gucci. After canceling a New Year's Eve show in 2021 due to weather conditions, Business Insider says the rapper apparently partied at a nightclub, but still billed taxpayers nearly $88,000 for the concert that never happened. Chris Brown and his companies receiving $10 million, according to the article, including thousands for his birthday party's LED dance floor, hookah and bottle service, nitrogen ice cream, and
even some
nitrogen ice cream. I don't know. I like the typical ice cream that all black folks like, butter pecan myself. But, hey, we'll talk about it. They are spending your tax dollars. Not only is Chris Brown charging your girl $1,000 to fill on their cheeks and take a photo at this concert, he's also spending your tax dollars, our tax dollars, on LED floors in his birthday party. This is actually kind of wild.
Some burn holes in the rental couches. Certainly not what I think the members of Congress had in mind when they approved this money.
The Business Insider reporting going on to say that an almost $10 million grant to superstar DJ Marshmello's company went straight into his pocket. The musicians, whose tour revenues declined steeply during the pandemic, were likely eligible for the grants, which were awarded based solely on revenue, according to the SBA.
It would not be surprising if this was entirely legal, and it still seems to violate the spirit of what these programs were really targeted at.
DJ Marshmello, Lil Wayne, and Chris Brown did not immediately respond to NBC News' request for comment and did not provide comments to Business Insider. This wasn't the only pandemic-era relief program facing scrutiny, as many became a target for fraud. Experts estimating the Paycheck Protection Program, meant to help small businesses keep up with payroll, was robbed of at least $80 billion.
I think there's plenty of blame to go around. Certainly the program design left itself susceptible to this poor targeting and also to the fraud.
Some experts say celebrity spending like this, even if it didn't violate any laws, could encourage others to take advantage of these programs.
And when you see people getting this money who didn't really need it, you could see where people kind of use that to internalize and to justify maybe kind of pushing the bounds of applying for these things themselves. So I think there's real cost to high-profile people of using these programs.
Okay, with that, Valerie Castro joins us now. So, Valerie, the expert in your piece kind of points out nothing illegal was apparently done here, but will those artists have to pay that money back? And why, if you could walk our viewers through, are we finding this out right now?
So keep in mind, these programs were rushed out at a time when people were in desperate need of help. It was the pandemic. Things were changing day by day. Unfortunately, it seems as though some people found those loopholes. It doesn't mean that they did anything illegal, but it may not have been in the spirit of what those programs were designed for. So they probably won't have to pay any of that money back. We're still hearing about it because the government is still getting tips about cases where fraudulent activity was suspected.
Okay, now I know what a lot of you all are thinking. Well, DFD, they already said that, there was nothing illegal done. But how is this possible? Because I've seen stories on your channel and a lot of other channels, and I know some people at the church and, who I went to school with who are in custody or being investigated or charged with fraud for paycheck protection theft or misuse of funds or falsifying documents to the federal government. Well, what is the distinction between the two? Here it is. Let me just break it down. One, most individuals who are charged with PPP fraud with regard to that program, they actually file documentation and they falsify information on the documentation. They lie about the amount of employees they have, the amount of revenue. The business is newly created with no real customer base, no actual physical address. They're actually falsifying information in the application for those funds. And when they get those funds, they don't use them for anything that they're absolutely intended for. So that's why Sister Shirley's third cousin on her mama's side, who at the church, is probably in custody now for PPP fraud. Let's pivot to these celebrities. One, why isn't it criminal? Well, it's probably not criminal because one, they had a legitimate business infrastructure. When they actually filled out their application, they probably didn't falsify any information on that application. Now, here's a nuanced thing we have to talk about. So, if I apply for federal funds and I'm truthful on the application, but when I get those funds, I don't use those funds for their intended purpose, I use them for something else. Is there a recourse that the government can pursue even though it's not criminal? Well, yes, there is. Let's talk about it. If there's no criminal liability, which appears to be the case here, there may be other avenues where the government can potentially recoup some of their money. The question is if they want to take these avenues. One is by utilizing the Federal False Claims Act, saying that an individual submitted a false claim to the government for payment. That submission of the false claim doesn't have to be on the front end. It has to just merely be the and a material fact. Is either the omission, so I can exclude a material fact, or I can include a bogus fact, either of which could implicate the Civil False Claims Act. One of the great things about the Civil False Claims Act, if the government so chose to go this route, they can get up to 3 times the losses. So if an artist got $10 million and the government pursues a Federal False Claims Act, they can get treble damages. They can get 3 times that amount, $30 million, to include interest and penalties and other things. Another option that may be available is what they refer to as the Baby False Claims Act. It's called the Program Fraud Civil Remedies Act, or PIFCRA. PIFCRA essentially allows the Inspector General of federal government agencies who are tasked with policing these programs to use an administrative remedy to seek monetary recovery. One of the differences between the Federal False Claims Act and the Program Fraud Civil Remedies Act, the Program Fraud Civil Remedies Act can only get 2 times the amount of damages. And normally it's used for a lower dollar amount. You're talking maybe $200,000 to $2 million is where you want to use that Program Fraud Civil Remedies Act. Normally, when you're talking about amounts over that, they would look for a Federal False Claims Act to get those 3 times or those treble damages. Or if it was something criminal, they would definitely go a criminal route. The reason why it isn't criminal is, let's just think about it. Even if, let's say, again, this is a hypothetical. Let's say Wheezy and Chris Brown did put false information on their application. The problem with the criminal charge is they are so far removed from the money that they have no actual intent. I mean, do we actually think that Lil Wayne sat down with his glass of lean and was like, yo, let me fill out this application for PPP funds? No, it was somebody within one of their corporations who is probably the money guy or the tax guy who saw this program, saw that they could get these funds, and took advantage of it. So you all let me know what y'all think in the comment. If there's nothing criminal here, do you think there is a likelihood of a inclusion or the omission of a material fact that would allow the government to seek civil damages and get 3 times the amount of losses? If there is, I think that would be a great avenue to go down, because this is just my point. If y'all going to prosecute Pookie, Ray Ray, or seek civil damages from Lil Earl and them, I think it's fair game to go after the celebrities. More importantly, I could kind of see Pookie and Ray Ray because they was probably broke as hell and didn't have any money before they committed the fraud. Whereas a person in these categories, they probably had a bunch of money already. They have a high net worth. They just wanted to get more funds and use it on birthday parties and all sorts of other stuff. And this just doesn't apply to celebrities, our hip hop and R&B celebrities. There were members of Congress who got PPP funds. So a lot of things are going to be looked at with a much higher level of scrutiny, especially since the statute of limitations to pursue PPP fraud has been extended. So it's a 10-year window. So we're going to see a lot of this going on for the next 7 to 8 years. If you enjoyed this, make sure you check out the video on the screen. There's going to be more content related to finances and attorney reactions.